Good morning, everyone, and welcome. So my name is Cassandra. I'm the CEO of Next Tech Learning. So it's wonderful to have you all part of this as your webinar today. And today we're delighted to have Stefano Tempesta present Microsoft Azure, your journey to a more secure and intelligent cloud. Stefano is well qualified as he works at Microsoft in the Azure Confidential Computing Product Group. And in his role, he's focused on making cloud a more secure place for data and applications. Additionally, as an advisor to the Department of Industry Australia on the National Blockchain Roadmap, his current focus is to help people gain and own their own digital identity. Stefano will first discuss how Azure can support your digital transformation to the cloud while remaining secure. He will also walk us through how to secure your data and applications in a more confidential way so your strategic assets and IP is protected, even from your cloud provider. You will walk away with insider tips on digital transformation, machine learning, and data security. As an authorized Microsoft Learning partner, NextTech provides the training, upskilling, and certification across all Microsoft Azure products. After Stefano addresses, we'll move actually into breakout rooms. So once we've gone through the presentation, you'll be breaking out into little breakout groups where you'll be sharing your key gems. So you'll be instructed by a NextTech employee to support and collaborate in the group session. So make sure you're writing down your points that you've taken away from his presentation. We'll discuss that in the breakout groups. The breakout groups will last for around 10 to 12 minutes. Then we'll come back to the session and wrap up and look forward to hearing some of those gems if anyone wants to share their feedback. So that's the agenda for today. We have a 1 hour time slot. I want to make sure that we're not impacting on your day, and we'll keep it to the relevant time there. And I really hope you find and get value out of this session and meet some interesting people. So thank you so much for joining our Azure webinar, and Stefano, over to you.
Thanks, Cassandra, and welcome everybody. Good morning. My name is Stefano Tempesta. So as mentioned, I work at Microsoft in the cloud AI, artificial intelligence, and security. And yeah, today is really about sharing some experiences and showing how you can enable your digital processes into the cloud, into the Azure cloud with smart and secure applications. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. I have a presentation. I have a few slides and a few demos that I want to show you. So we'll go through how to build applications for the cloud that are smart, so leveraging the AI capability of Azure, and secure, leveraging part of the security capability of Azure, because Azure has a lot to offer, but we'll focus specifically on aspect of protecting your PII, your personal information, personal identifiable information. Questions anytime. Don't just wait for the end of the break room. If you have burning questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or write in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on it and answer the best way I can. But let's get moving. First of all, how many have heard of Azure as a cloud? And I'm pretty sure that not many knows that Azure is the most pervasive public cloud provider in the world, offering nearly 60 regions in all the continents. And there is a super nice animation that I just want to share with you that has been published recently, which is this one. If you go, just search for Azure Global Infrastructure, you will find this super nice animation that basically shows all the different regions around the world where Azure is located. So you can see there is obviously a big presence in Europe, a big presence in the US. And if we keep navigating around the globe, I'm sorry for the flat earthers, this is definitely a globe. We're gonna land here and see that we have our data centers in different regions in Australia, right? So I just love looking into the animation and see how pervasive is the cloud. Now, saying that, the cloud is what? Is a lot of services. Is your virtual machine for running your application, is your backup, is your data storage, is your business intelligence, is your e-commerce or marketing applications. Today, I want to focus on this little guy here. Confidential computing is about protecting and securing your data when it is in use, when you're actually processing. We'll get into that in a moment. And there are additional services that are a bit more specialized, like high performance computing, when you really need to obtain a high scale of capability, high performance, for example, for some machine learning capabilities. Or there are services for mobile application, for the Internet of Things, all your devices, sensors, tracking, telemetry data, such as location, temperature, humidity, these sort of things. And today we'll focus specifically on the AI platform. You will see it's super easy. Is something that you can really configure with low coding or no coding at all. There are different levels of services that are available in the AI platform, and I want to touch on a few of them. First of all, let me always keep the chat open on the side and get a quick question on the spot. Do you have a percentage of Azure is used around the world? Azure is used by, I believe, 80% of the Fortune 500 customers around the world. It all depends where this Fortune 500 has been defined. It's typically a figure that is US driven, more American, but it's definitely one of the cloud that has the more presence in terms of geographies. Then other cloud providers may have more a higher number of customers onboarded in terms of purely consumption, but from a geography perspective, Azure is more in any more regions than anybody else. This is important also from a data residency perspective. There are a lot of regulations in different countries, especially in Europe, which is very fragmented in terms of data residency requirements, where data has to be within the boundaries of the region, of the territory. And this is why in Australia, there are, these actually, let me take an opportunity to go back one more time. We have not just the two regions associated typically to Sydney and Melbourne. Actually, you know what? No one, or very few, knows the actual address of these data centers. You don't just drive around and see a big sign, Microsoft Azure. It is taken extremely confidential because we don't really want the general public to know where the data centers are. I don't know, and I work at Microsoft, where the data centers are physically located. It's not like an IKEA shop that you pass around, you drive around and see the big sign, right? So it is meant for a security perspective. And we do have also Australia Central, which is typically associated to Canberra, which is a special cloud for government workloads only. So is secure and fenced cloud that can only be used by government agencies. All right, said that, which was just a quick clarification. Let's carry on. What's the cloud? The cloud is a lot of different services that you can enable. Typically, if you're running your applications on premises, so within your own data center, you will have a responsibility for everything, from plugging your computer, well, acquiring, buying your computers, plugging your computers, keep them fresh into some air-con rooms, keep them running, maintaining, installing the operating system, patching, security, and all the aspects of the application that you deploy on it. That's the first column on the left-hand side. You manage the entire stack on-prem. As you move to a public cloud provider, you start shifting the responsibility more and more towards the managed cloud, the managed services. The IaaS stands for Infrastructure as a Service. The cloud provider, Microsoft, takes responsibility of buying the physical servers, plugging them, providing the electricity, providing the security around these data centers, these big buildings where they are hosted. And what you do is basically rent the usage of the servers for your own workloads. And then you are responsible for managing the operating system, Windows, Linux, the application that you install, the access to it, and so on. That is infrastructure as a service. We buy, you use it. But a lot of customers have found this a little bit challenging, especially because they may not have a lot of IT personnel staff in their team. So they say, hey, you know what? I really don't want to deal with operating system, networking, runtime environments, patching and security. Just give me an environment where I can deploy my applications. And that's it. That is PaaS, platform as a service. We take care of a lot of components and we just give the responsibility to the client to manage their own data and applications. Still, I'm pretty sure many of you are using applications like Office 365 or Dynamics 365, your email, your Word and Excel, SharePoint, Microsoft Teams. So these applications where you just log in with your username and password and you start using it. You don't have to install anything, maybe just a simple client on your workstation. That is SaaS, software as a service. Applications that are entirely managed by Azure, and you don't have to think about updating aspect of security. You just use them and typically pay a subscription on a monthly or annual basis. Now, why I'm saying this? I'm saying this because in the concept of a digital transformation, moving to the cloud, some people see as a lift and shift, as in I have some workloads, applications, servers that run on premises, and then I move them to the cloud as they are. Yes, it may work, but you are taking the benefit only of part of just a fraction of what the cloud can offer. Now, I could talk about this digital transformation to the cloud for hours, probably even days, but today I really want to focus on a couple of specific aspects of the Azure cloud: AI and security. So let me just go ahead and tell you, the AI platform in Azure is unbelievable. You can do machine learning and deep learning, cognitive services like face recognition, voice recognition, real-time translation, and bot services. So bots that you can interact, you can chat, you can talk to, they can recognize objects, recognize people, even virtual reality. Again, there will be a lot to go through this, but I want to go through a few of these. Machine learning, for example. Machine learning is sounds complicated, right? You think, oh gosh, this someone that only a data scientist can typically do. Well, you can do it. Anybody can do it. I can do it. Machine learning is really, give me your data, let me do some experiment and get a trained model which has identified some patterns in data and can predict the output as a web service. A web service is something that your application can consume without knowing, without coding, pretty much. I will show you that in a moment. What can machine learning do? Outcome prediction. I can predict how many ice cream I'm going to sell today because it's a nice sunny day. Based on what? Based on historical data that I as a machine learning service have analyzed and identified that there is a correlation between sunny weather and the number of ice cream sold. Demand estimation, recommendation, a bit the Amazon way, right? So people that have booked that have bought this book, they also bought this and that, or sentiment analysis, and so on. Machine learning may be initially complex to figure out. This is a screenshot of a machine learning studio, which has a lot of different blocks or components to put together. But you know what? Let me show you this in action, because you will be surprised how actually easy it is to use it. There are different experiment, this is the way we call them, that I have built. Pick one. I mean, it's too early probably for the wine sommelier experiment. So how about we do something a little bit more, shall we say, serious? Online payment fraud detection. Okay, so is the possibility basically to predict whether a transaction is fraudulent or not. Now, how do I start? I have obviously a few experiments predefined, but if I were to start from the beginning, just click the new, there is a gallery of predefined services that I can leverage, and then I can start working with it. Very popular was flight delay prediction. The last 18 months, no one is using it. Let's hope we can get back to that.
No, sorry to interrupt you there,
Sure.
Stefano. I'm just going to ask just a pulse check to see how everyone's traveling. Can I just ask everyone to use the chat 1 to 10? How informative or how much of this you're understanding so far? I would love to get feedback from everyone on the session. 1 to 10, that's fantastic. Some 10s coming through. Awesome. Thank you, Stefano. Sorry to interrupt.
Absolutely. No, thanks for that. All right. So you will start by building a new offering. Obviously, this will take a few minutes. So let me go straight into an offering, sorry, an experiment that I already built. And this one is basically identifying some payment data. Let me visualize the data set. Contains some rows here, some people that bought something on Amazon in different countries, different amounts. I immediately see the correlation here. For example, people that have bought in different countries, and I can see the correlation. Typically in Ireland, they spend between 100 and 200, probably less, 30 or 40 euros, whatever that is. Then there is an anomaly here in Nigeria, for example, not coincidentally happen to be in this country here. So what is all this about? Is about defining a flow of processing data. You can see is an anomaly detection, because online payment or detection of fraud for potential fraud for online payments is all about identifying anomalies in a cluster of data. So in all these thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions that a financial institute or a payment gateway receives on a daily basis, what's the likelihood that something is fraudulent or not? So the way it works is that I start connecting a few boxes in here. I do a training. This is an anomaly detection. And you can see machine learning here as a different way of training a model. Anomaly detection, as I mentioned, PCA base, which is a principal component analysis to identifying the components of an anomaly, of a cluster, of a one cluster where I already know what are the components and I just want to train a model. And a lot of other things for classification, regression, clustering, and so on. We don't have really the time to go through all of them, but just to give you an idea, all I have to do is really pick a component, drag and drop, connect, and start using. Okay, so I'm not going to do that, but that's the idea how it works. There is no coding, no scripting required at all. Yes, you can do it if you really want to. So you can take and execute a Python script. Python is not the snake, but is a programming language for data scientists, very popular. But I'm not going to do that. It's not really necessary. All you can do is completely visual. And when you're done building your experiment, then all you do is publish and expose this as a web service. So I'm going to save it for now and publish this as a web service. So the cloud, the Azure cloud, has prepared a web service. You don't have to provision any virtual machine, any container, anything of this stuff, and just make it available for building your application. Now I'm gonna just quick test and say, hey, for example, today, me in Australia, I'm gonna spend $1,000, and today is the 25th, I believe, right? So I'm gonna put the date in this format. Sorry, which I know is the expected format by this service. Run the service, and this come out down here. You see, it come out as 0.58, which is basically 58% that this transaction is fraudulent. Well, why? Well, simply because the data that have been used don't take into account Australia as a country, for example. So very high probability, but also the amount was a bit higher. If I did test this with same condition, or maybe in Ireland, that I know is one of the good countries, and a lower amount, but still today's date, for example, and test, the probability should come much lower. And indeed, it comes much lower in here, okay? So I know that this transaction has less risk to be a fraudulent transaction. All right, so this is the way machine learning works. Machine learning starts from data, process this data, and then expose the trained model with the scoring capability as a service.
We have a question in the chat, Stefano. So a question from Craig. So can this be used to document discovery in regards to a legal company?
It can be used for, correct, yes. It can be used for doing analysis of text inside the document. There is a capability which I'll mention in a moment. It's called text analysis that can process content of documents, understand the meaning. So from a text perspective, from a language perspective, in a variety of different languages, and then present these as a dictionary or a collection of documents that then can be searched. It's not just a search for keywords or for placeholders, it's a search for meaning inside the content of the document. Can be legal, it can be anything, right? It can be for anything that is searchable. And there was a question before, is this the same as BI? I assume it's a business intelligence. This is a little bit more than that. BI is static analysis of data and is typically statistics. This is finding insight in data that you don't know upfront. Okay. Moving on, cognitive services is actually the next topics which is attached to the questions around document discovery. You can do text analytics, so understanding of natural language. You can write some sentence in multiple languages and the system will be able to understand. Can do sentiment analysis, understand whether a sentence is positive or negative, but also some funny things like face recognition, voice recognition, ink, so handwriting recognition, and so on. I just want to show you something that I hope you find entertaining because I definitely like it, and is this little chatbot that I built very, very quickly. This chatbot can interact with a person by simply pushing a button. No, so I'm Clancy. How can I help you today? Participate in research. I give my answer, and then I get everything back, and that's perfect. If I start again, I can also type participate in research, and the bot will hopefully understand my typing and provide the same answer. But not just that, the bot can also talk.
Hi. I'm Clancy, a virtual agent. I can help you with questions about your study and more. So, what can I help you with today? Please choose one of the following options. Participate in research. Find a researcher. Find an expert.
Hopefully you got that right. So that is not a pre-recorded voice. That is a synthesized voice, a voice that has been defined and been synthesized by computer and can read anything you write in there. I can also recognize my voice even with my accent. Participate in research. There we go. So got my voice recognition, just open the mic and identify the correct answer. I can even change accent. Now this is going to be a little change, so don't be intimidated by what I'm writing here. This is basically the voice that you heard before was William and spoke with an Australian accent in English language. I can change it. There is a list of all of this just with a simple change, as you see. I mean, this obviously requires a little bit of configuration, to a female voice, Jenny, with an American accent. If I run this one more time, it will, where is it? Here we go. It will probably hear in another tab, Jenny, Clancy the bot, speaking with Jenny American voice.
Hi, I'm Clancy, a virtual agent. I can help you with questions about your study and more. So, what can I help you with today?
Okay, obviously.
Please choose one of the following options.
Jenny
Participate
will keep
in
on
research.
talking now until the end.
Find a researcher.
Of the different options.
Find an expert.
So all it took basically was just a line to change the voice, and it is, there are different voices in different accents, different languages, and so on. All right. This is the cognitive service. Let's move on also in the interest of time into the oops, sorry. What's happening? Here we go. Yes. Before we move on into the security part of it, the service that I use to build this bot is called Power Virtual Agent. Is a drag and drop visual tool for building chatbot with no coding at all. There was a little bit of coding, as you probably have briefly seen before, just for a change of language, the change of the synthesized voice. Otherwise, any other capability, so all the buttons, the interactivity, the response given to a question is all defined as a normal editor, a little bit like you're building a PowerPoint, and then you go slide by slide, is basically screen by screen of your chatbot. All right, now I want to attach the conversation around AI to confidential computing, because I've been working a lot in this special focus of protecting your data that is often used for machine learning capability or for AI capability in general, because this data contains confidential information. And
Cloud.
I'm going to skip the animation because otherwise we'll probably take a little bit of time and talk over it myself. Now, we are probably familiar with the concept of protecting data at rest and in transit, which basically means, hey, data is always secure when we store it inside a database, for example. And also is secure when we transfer it and we access it over HTTPS. Now, any service that is not HTTPS, I would probably be a bit wary of using it, especially if there is some payment involved, right? But there is a moment where data is actually in memory inside a server, a virtual machine, that can be visible. So this is the protection of data in use that confidential computing introduced. And the use cases are different. Different industries, different customers in these industries are using confidential computing to protect their financial services, their healthcare medical records, their digital identities, anything that requires the utmost protection. Because there is a nuance into confidential computing, is that data runs in a black box, which we call trusted execution environment. Not your normal virtual machine, not your normal container, but a memory space, a portion of this VM, which virtual machine, which is specifically allocated to protect your data and your code. So you can also run your application in confidentiality and protect them from anybody else, including the cloud provider. So this is a screenshot of a memory space taken with a tool that takes memory dump. A memory dump is basically, hey, let me see what's running inside the server. And I run this and I can't figure out what's happening there. The screen is completely not visible to me. If I took this screenshot in a normal virtual machine, a normal server, which is not protected with confidential computing, I will be able to see data that is in memory. So this is the innovation that confidential computing introduced, the possibility to isolate data inside a trusted execution environment, often called enclave. So a black box where you run your trusted application, machine learning, for example, and then several institutes, several organizations, several banks, several companies in general can share their data, knowing that no one can access this data except the application that is running inside the enclave, the trusted execution environment itself. This is quite innovative in terms of data security, because for example, in the use case that you see here, fraud detection, machine learning, the accuracy of prediction of machine learning is increased by the availability of more and more data sets, which are provided by different banks. But banks are very conservative and they don't really want to share their customers' data. In this case, they can, because the enclave protects the access to this data by anybody else. And the output is only visible as a web service, as we have seen before. Machine learning accesses the data. Data is only visible to machine learning and no one else, not even the cloud provider. And then the output, just the output, not the original data, is visible as a web service. And just to close on this, confidential computing has a lot of to offer, but the one attribute that I want to mention more than anything is that data and applications and code is opaque even to the cloud provider. So no one, and Microsoft, even with administrative privileges to access the data centers, can see what's running inside a confidential virtual machine, a confidential containers, a confidential machine learning. Because the way this is done is with a protection of memory that is completely opaque, completely invisible to anybody except the application that you install and you have the key to access. Questions? Yes, Reza.
Yeah, my question was, is it using the blockchain or cryptography system and the cloud computing or confidential computing system?
Blockchain is one of the technology that is getting a benefit of confidential computing, and not the other way around. So it's not used, confidential computing is not using blockchain. Blockchain is may use confidential computing for protecting data transactions. So the way this is technically done is with hardware encryption. Confidential computing is using encryption at hardware level, typically in a CPU. Each CPU has a special key for encryption that is wired inside the CPU itself and is used for encrypting data.
And then if we lose that, for example, we say CPU, then we don't have recovery method on that, correct? So if it's a hardware and it's in one place.
So this is correct if you rely on one server only. Obviously, you need to have a redundancy in place, different services, correct,
sure.
for availability.
Thank you very
right.
much.
Yes. Thank you for the question. All right. One question, one little video I want to show you just before we close is really short of a minute, is putting everything together, putting the confidentiality aspect together for protecting your data, putting the face recognition, voice recognition, artificial intelligence in terms of virtual reality, machine learning, to build a commercial application that does what you see in this video now, which I believe is something amazing to obtain from a technological perspective.
What if there was a way for employees to work together from anywhere, when everything is on the line? Employees are the heart of every business. It's their resourcefulness, ingenuity, and drive that get the job done. But even the best employees need help from people who aren't there with them. Now employees on site can work side by side with experts in remote locations. In an instant, they can share what they see, lend a helping hand, walk through the process step by step, helping solve problems in real time. This is a new vision for work. Now employees can work smarter and bring in the people they need with just a tap. They can troubleshoot, repair, and perform with confidence and speed. They can move freely, pull critical information into view, and stay focused on the task. Their hands free to do the work. This is collaborative problem solving at full speed. Your people, united across time and distance, more connected, more informed, and more efficient. Now employees can work together from anywhere. They can go there without being there. This isn't the future. This is here and now.
As Cassandra mentioned also at the very beginning, there is a possibility to attend training courses and certify on different technologies and become also unofficially Microsoft certified professional on different areas of the technology. But that's all I wanted to share with all of you today. I know it's been a little bit of a rush and there is so much content that I know is available in the Azure cloud, but feel free to reach out to Next Tech, to myself directly, and we'll be happy to assist with more.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And on that note, we can definitely share the pathways through to certification there. And Next Tech are also offering everybody who registered and attended today's webinar 50% off Microsoft products, the training products there through Next Tech. So get in contact with a learning executive and we'll definitely be able to walk you through the right certification pathway for you. And we have 50% off all of our training for Microsoft over the next few days. So reach out to a learning executive and we'd be more than happy to help.